Think you know the whole story? Turns out you were probably taught the half-truth. Welcome to Half-Truths. Close your eyes for a moment and picture your old 5th grade social studies classroom. Remember the smell of chalk dust and floor wax? There was probably a big, pull-down map of the world at the front of the room, its corners curled and softened with age, and on the wall, a poster. Maybe it was a glossy photo from a NASA mission showing that beautiful, fragile blue marble hanging in the blackness of space. Staring at that image, your teacher, or maybe a textbook, or even one of those fascinating trivia books, told you something that lodged itself permanently in your brain. A fact so incredible, so monumental, it felt like a piece of cosmic poetry. They told you that of all the things humanity has ever built, all our cities, our dams, our pyramids, only one structure is so vast, so magnificent, that it can be seen from space with the naked eye: the Great Wall of China. The idea is breathtaking, that this ancient serpentine wall, a dragon of stone and earth built by dynasties of emperors, is our sole signature on the face of the planet, legible from the heavens. It's a factoid that has been repeated for generations, appearing in school reports, on game shows, and in casual conversation as the ultimate piece of did you know trivia. It elevates the wall from a historical fortification to a planetary landmark, a symbol of human persistence on a scale that transcends Earth itself. But here's the thing about a good story. Sometimes it's just that, a story. What if this epic, AWE-inspiring fact, the one we've all accepted without question, isn't the whole truth? What if it isn't even a half-truth? What if the people who have actually looked down from orbit, the men and women who have floated in the silent void and gazed upon our world, have a different tale to tell? Today, we're pulling on that thread. We're going to unlearn the story of the one man-made object you can see from space. The story we all know is a powerful one because it feels right. It appeals to our sense of wonder. The Great Wall of China isn't just a wall, it's an idea. It represents immense scale, both in space and in time. We're talking about a structure whose various sections, if pieced together, stretch for over 13,000 miles. That's more than half the circumference of the Earth. It was built not in a decade or even a century, but over the course of nearly 2 millennia. It's a project of such staggering ambition that it almost defies human comprehension. So, when we're told it's visible from space, our minds readily accept it. Of course it is. How could it not be? We picture it as a thick, dark line carved defiantly across the Asian continent, a clear and obvious scar left by human hands. The myth often gets even grander, evolving to claim the wall is visible not just from orbit, but from the moon. This version is even more romantic. It suggests that when Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin stood on the lunar surface and looked back at that distant, swirling globe of blue and white, they could pick out this one singular achievement of the species they had just left behind. This idea has been reinforced in our culture for over a century. It was popularized by sources that carried an air of authority, like Ripley's Believe It or Not, which cartoonishly depicted the wall as a massive structure easily seen from on high. It became a staple of popular geography and history, a simple, digestible fact that made the world feel both vast and a little bit smaller. It gave us a sense of collective pride. Look what we did. We, the human race, built something so big it can be seen from the moon. The persistence of the myth is also a testament to its narrative perfection. It's a story with a clear hero, human ingenuity. It has a grand setting, the entire planet, And it has a stunning visual climax, that single, defiant line visible against the continents. It connects our ancient past with our spacefaring future in one elegant, AWE-inspiring thought. It's a perfect piece of trivia because it's simple, it's memorable, and it makes us feel impressed with ourselves. It's a fact that feels too good not to be true. And for decades, with no one to really contradict it, it's settled into our collective consciousness as settled science. The problem, however, is that eventually we did go to space, and we started sending people up there who could look out the window and check for themselves. That's where our perfect story begins to unravel. The first thread we need to pull is the most extreme version of the claim, that the Great Wall is visible from the moon. The moon is, on average, about 239,000 miles away from Earth. From that distance, the entire planet appears as a bright, beautiful disk, but individual features are incredibly difficult to discern. Continents are visible, as are polar ice caps, but not much else. Let's put it in perspective. Seeing the Great Wall from the moon would be the equivalent of standing in Los Angeles and trying to spot a single strand of human hair lying on a sidewalk in San Francisco. It is, to put it mildly, a physical impossibility. The astronauts of the Apollo missions were asked this question repeatedly upon their return. Their answers were unanimous and unequivocal. Alan Bean, the Apollo 12 astronaut who walked on the moon, was blunt. The only thing you can see from the moon is a beautiful sphere, mostly white, some blue and patches of yellow, and every once in a while some green vegetation. No man-made object is visible at this scale. Neil Armstrong, the first man on the moon, confirmed it. He said he couldn't even see continents with clarity, let alone a single wall. So, the most romantic and impressive version of the myth crumbles under the simple weight of eyewitness testimony. It was a complete fabrication, a piece of romantic fiction that never had any basis in reality. But what about the more modest claim, the one that says you can see it from low Earth orbit, the region where the International Space Station and former space shuttles fly, typically between 200 and 300 miles up? This is where the half-truth gets a little more slippery. This seems more plausible. After all, from that altitude, astronauts can see plenty of things. Cities, airports, dams. Surely the Great Wall, at over 13,000 miles long, must be one of them. The first American in orbit, John Glenn, reported that he could not see the wall during his historic flights. Neither could many who followed him. For decades, a succession of astronauts would peer out their windows, hoping to catch a glimpse of the legendary structure, and would come away disappointed. The origin of this myth, it turns out, predates the space age entirely. It didn't come from an astronaut's report, but from the pen of a writer, long before anyone had ever left the atmosphere. The idea seems to have been first floated, hypothetically in the 18th century, by an English antiquarian named William Stukeley. In a 1754 letter, he mused that Hadrian's Wall in England was so substantial that it must be surpassed only by the Chinese Wall, which he speculated might be discerned from the moon. He meant it as a rhetorical flourish, a way to express the wall's immense scale, not as a statement of observational fact. But the idea was too good to let go. It was popularized in the 1930s, a time of grand adventures and exotic travelogues. A well-known adventurer and writer named Richard Halliburton published his second book of marvels in 1938, a book for young readers that was filled with tales of wonders from around the world. In it, he stated with absolute certainty that the Great Wall of China was the only man-made thing visible from the moon. Halliburton was a showman, not a scientist, and his claim was pure romantic hyperbole. But it was printed in a popular book and read by millions. The seed was planted, and it took root in the fertile ground of public imagination. Ripley's Believe It or Not picked it up and amplified it, and by the time the space age dawned, the idea was already accepted as common knowledge. It was a pre-existing fact, just waiting for astronauts to confirm it. Except they didn't. So why exactly is the Great Wall so camouflaged from orbit? The truth lies in a simple but crucial misunderstanding of what makes something visible from a great distance. We think of the wall's great length, but we forget about its other, far more important dimension, its width. While the Great Wall is incredibly long, it is also incredibly narrow. At its widest points, it's about 30 feet across. For most of its length, it's much thinner. From an altitude of 250 miles, 30 feet is an almost infinitesimally small line. An astronaut trying to see it with the naked eye would be attempting to resolve an object thinner than a human hair from the length of 2 football fields away. The other critical factor is contrast. For something to be visible from space, it needs to stand out sharply from its background. Think of a long, dark asphalt highway cutting through a pale, sandy desert. The contrast is high, making the road visible. The Great Wall, however, was built primarily from local materials. In the rocky, mountainous regions, it was built from the surrounding rock. In the dusty, lowest plains, it was built from rammed earth. The result is a structure with almost perfect natural camouflage. The wall is the same color and texture as the ground it sits on. It doesn't cast a significant shadow unless the sun is at a very low angle. And even then, it's often indistinguishable from the natural shadows of the mountains it snakes across. Veteran NASA astronaut Jay Apt, who flew on 4 space shuttle missions, put it perfectly. He said, "We have flown over the Great Wall of China for years, and I've never found anyone who has told me they've seen it with their own eyes." He explained that he had spent a lot of time looking for it with binoculars, and still couldn't be sure he'd ever seen it. The conditions would have to be perfect. A crystal clear day with no clouds or pollution, the sun at just the right angle to create shadows, and the astronaut would have to know exactly where to look. Even then, it would be a faint, fleeting impression, not the bold, clear line of our imagination. In 2003, this issue became a point of national discussion in China itself. When China sent its first astronaut, Yang Liwei, into orbit, he returned to a hero's welcome. But during a press conference, he made a startling admission. He had not seen the Great Wall from space. This caused a minor crisis of confidence. The myth was so deeply ingrained in Chinese culture and national pride that his statement was a shock. It led the Chinese government to officially remove the fact from its primary school textbooks, replacing the legend with a more sober reality. So if the Great Wall is effectively invisible, what man-made things can you see? The answer is both surprising and far more revealing about modern humanity. Astronauts report that large, high-contrast features are the most obvious. Airport runways, especially those in desert locations, are often clearly visible. The massive open-pit Bingham Canyon mine in Utah is another frequently cited landmark. The network of dikes and canals in the Netherlands, which form a vast geometric pattern against the water, can be seen. The pyramids at Giza can sometimes be spotted, not because of their size, but because of their perfect geometry and the sharp, triangular shadows they cast in the morning or evening sun. But the most spectacular and undeniable evidence of human civilization is not visible during the day. It's visible at night. When an astronaut looks down on the night side of Earth, they don't see one wall. They see a breathtaking, glittering web of light. They see the glowing grids of cities like Tokyo, Paris, and New York. They see the bright necklaces of highways connecting metropolitan areas. They see the lonely lights of fishing fleets spotted across the dark oceans. This view of our electrified world is the true, unambiguous signature of humanity. It's not an ancient wall built for defense, but a living, pulsating network built for connection. It's a far more powerful and accurate portrait of our species in the 21st century than a winding stone fortification. So, we journeyed from a familiar childhood fact to a more complex and fascinating reality. We started with the image of a single ancient wall, a stoic symbol of human endurance, supposedly visible from the moon. It was a simple, powerful story. It made us feel a sense of awe for our ancestors and our own potential for greatness. But it was a story born of romanticism and hyperbole, not of observation. The truth, as we discovered, is messier, but also more profound. The Great Wall is a monumental achievement, but its greatness is terrestrial. It was built to be seen from the ground, to intimidate armies approaching across the plains, not to be a beacon for celestial travelers. Its magnificence lies in its history, in the human sweat and sacrifice embedded in every stone, not in its supposed cosmic visibility. Unlearning this half-truth matters because it teaches us how easily a compelling narrative can overshadow reality. The myth of the visible wall persisted for so long because it was a better story. It was more poetic, more inspiring. But the reality of what is actually visible from space tells a different and perhaps more important story. It's not a story about an ancient empire defending its borders. It's a story about a modern, interconnected global civilization, a story written not in stone, but in light. The real wonder isn't that you can see one ancient line from orbit. It's that you can see the brilliant, sprawling, and undeniable glow of 7 billion human lives lighting up the darkness. Now you know the real story. What other half-truths are still out there? If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a comment, and join us next time. Until then, stay curious.